We will call the meeting of the Auburn Transportation Benefit District to order. Danny, will you please call roll?
Board Member Baggett?
Yes, here.
DeCoursey?
Here.
Holman?
Here.
Pelosa?
Here.
Trout Manuel? Wagner?
Excused.
Wales?
Here. All right. First on the agenda for today is the, first of all, do we have any agenda modifications?
Yes, Chair. Thank you. There's an item entitled Other Items Related to Auburn Transportation Benefit District Board Resolution Number 2016-01.
Okay. Thank you. This isn't the council and mayor, it's the board. Chair? No, I'm not a board mayor. I have plenty to keep me busy. Your microphone, please. Board Member Pelosa.
So, when can I make a motion on 2016? This is the resolution 2016-01.
Yes, we have the consent agenda. Dan or Danny, is there any specific place on the agenda to make a motion?
Typically, it's after the consent agenda, but the board can put that agenda item wherever it most logically fits. And probably because the motion that at least was advised by a council member or board member Pelosa would be dispositive of some of the other issues, it might be worth putting at the beginning.
After the consent agenda?
Correct.
Okay. So we will do the consent agenda first. Do we have a motion for the consent agenda? Thank you.
I move for the approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Passes. Board Member Pelosa, did you?
Board Chair?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion. A motion to reconsider resolution number 2016-01. And this originally was passed in December 2016, and it was approving a $20 vehicle license fee pursuant to RCW 36.73.065.
Thank you. Is there a second? Board Member Trout Manuel.
I second that, Mayor.
Thank you. Board Member Pelosa.
Okay. The reason for the reconsideration is a lot of things have been going on the last several weeks regarding taxation to our residents here in Auburn. And I have been approached by several residents concerned about the $20 license tab that the city has already approved. In light of ST3 license tab enormous increase that may come about, I thought about it, and I thought that it would be wise, for me anyway, to have a reconsideration.
Okay, just a little clarification here. The board approved the resolution originally, and then the city council accepted the agreement with the Transportation Benefit District Board, but it is the board that approved the resolution, not the city.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I just want to make that clarification. It's
agree.
very confusing because the body is the same in both the
I agree with
council
your,
and the board, but.
with your
Okay.
comments.
Did you want to explain what is in your resolution? And your microphone, please.
May I assist here a little bit?
Yes.
The motion as stated would put on the table the question of whether the resolution would be reconsidered. It doesn't include a separate resolution. It would be action to either bring back or not a vote on the motion 2016-01.
Okay, so Dan, just,
And that, excuse me, Board Chair, that was dated December 13th, 2016. Correct?
that was the
That's
original.
correct.
Yes.
Okay.
So, Dan, just a clarification. The resolution 2016-01 to be, Board Member Pelosi, you are asking for a reconsideration of that?
Correct.
Okay, and we do have in front of us an amended resolution, so that's what I was pertaining to
Right.
as to what you wanted reconsidered within the resolution. Does that make sense, Dan?
I think that we're dealing with two separate things. The resolution, the motion to reconsider
Okay,
would be an up or down vote
And
on
then
whether
the
to
resolution
consider,
would be
and
brought
then
back.
what happens after that would be on the motion.
All right.
You'd actually revisit the vote on the resolution if it were
if
successful.
it passes. All right. Board Member Wales, did you have a comment?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Your microphone, oh, yeah, it is, sorry. Didn't go on it first.
I want to support the concept of looking at this again. Like Pelosi, council member, or board member, Pelosi alluded to, I think we're now hearing in the news the impact of ST3 and what it's doing to license tabs. In addition, I think that that's going to be a significant increase for a number of years for a number of families per car. Additionally, we are very, very fortunate that our community has approved a bond to remodel 5 schools and build 2 or 3. This bond that they passed is different than what they've passed in the past. In the past, it was called a replacement bond, in that some bonds were paid off and they just enacted that amount so that the bonding rate was the same or the cost to the individual homeowner is the same. This time, they did not just plain replacement. They did beyond what they've done in the past. So the point of that comment is our community is going to be hit significantly as it relates to school bonds. The school bonds, in addition to ST3, which we need to commend the community for supporting both of those incredible forward-thinking actions, is going to represent a significant burden. Looking at a $20 tab, of which $5 of it will probably go to administrative costs, seems to be a hard way to get $20 or $15 out of someone, even though we do need it for roads and things. It seems like a hard way or a slap in the face of our voters who have been so strong in support in those other 2 items. When we get going on those replacement schools and brand new schools, the construction sales tax will go to roads. And we also have some other major projects that are going to go to roads. So I don't know if this is the climate or the thriftiest way to get $15. Thank you.
Thank you. And just as a reminder, the current city position on construction sales tax is that it is dedicated solely to neighborhood roads or local roads, and the $20 license tab fees cannot go to local roads. It has to be to arterials and in some cases collector roads. Okay. All right. Board Member Holman.
Thank you, Chair. Hardly a week goes by that I don't get an email or a phone call or have a conversation with someone critical of the roads in Auburn, particularly the arterials. I had a coffee last week with a business owner out on the AB corridor who starts his referring to the AB corridor as Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. It's one of the first roads that this $20 car tab was set to fix. I'm also quite concerned is that we have some rather large grants from PSRC, federal money, for A Street Southeast Preservation, Auburn Way North Preservation Phase 2 and 3, Lake Tapps Parkway, amounting to about $3.5 million, but those all require matching funds, of which I assume that was what the $20 car tabs were for. I'd like to point out that $20 car tab works out to 38 cents a week. Yeah, it adds up, but you strike a pothole and tear a tire, that's $100. You strike a pothole and that's a $100 realignment. I'm wondering if this is standing on dollar bills to pick up a nickel.
That sounds like a quote from a former council member.
Well,
Osborne.
if Wayne were here, I'd be reaching out to him. But it is a quote from Wayne. This last year, I took a trip to a very poor village in Costa Rica. And this town didn't have money to fix its roads. So they did what they could do. They had a city works person with a can of white paint and a brush, and he went around and he painted a white circle around all the potholes. They couldn't afford to patch them. There are very many of them, but they could paint a white circle around them. So perhaps if we do away with our $20 car tabs, we can substitute a fellow with a rattle can of white paint to paint white circles around our potholes instead of fixing them. I don't like paying any more taxes than the next guy, but there's no free lunch.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of revisiting resolution number 2016-01, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
No.
Okay, we have a 4-2 vote on the revisitation of resolution number 2016-01, so that motion passes. All right, so Dan, now would it be appropriate then to have resolution 2016-01 brought forward again? How should we work that?
It is, with that motion, it is as if the motion
Is back on the
is
floor.
back on the table. The resolution is back before you for consideration, debate, and a vote.
All right, and all of you on the dais have resolution number 2016-01, the amended resolution, correct?
The actual motion that is actually before the body is the original motion that was adopted in December. The amended version would take a motion.
Okay, so right now, the only thing on the floor then is the original resolution 2016-01.
That's correct.
All right. Is there any discussion? So, Dan, The resolution, the original resolution is on the floor, and I hear no discussion.
Well,
Board Member Holman.
I realize I'm in the minority in this argument, but I'd like to pose a question to the original motion maker. I take it you're not in favor of bad roads either, so where are we going to get the matching funds for this $3.5 million grant?
I have a couple.
Board Member Pelosi, would you like?
Thank you, Board Chair. I have a couple of suggestions, and one of them is to create an ad hoc committee to review the priorities of public works capital projects. That's number one.
So, Board Member Pelosi, are you talking about asking the City Council to have that ad hoc committee? Because
Yes.
it would be,
No. Oh,
it would be the
okay.
city's.
All right, yeah.
So, it is confusing, as I said, but these are two separate bodies,
Yeah,
so.
okay, I'll restate it. One of Board Member Pelosi's suggested ways of obtaining revenue might be that the City Council create an ad hoc committee of 3 council members to review the public works capital projects. That's one way to see if there's room for movement in capital projects, i.e., are the priorities review the priorities of the capital projects. And the second one would be that the City Council create another ad hoc committee of 3 members and review the human services project, human service programs that are not CBDG type funded.
CDBG?
Yeah, CDBG. Those are the 2 ways that are possible revenue sources for the
Right.
City Council.
Thank you. Are there any other, Board Member Holman?
I'm concerned about both of those. Reviewing the priorities of projects. Right now, we've tried to make our prioritization of road projects based on engineering and scientific principles, where we go out and grade the roads and the worst get first. By forming a committee, you're putting it back into the political decision. So maybe your friends get the road and mine don't, or we really need to have that done, outsource it to the road and engineering professionals, not make it a political decision again. The other thing that I would like to mention is finding money to do this from the Human Services Program. The City of Auburn spends approximately $500,000 a year on human service projects. By my calculation, the $20 car tabs would give us about $800,000. So you'd completely wipe out our human services program
For the city.
for the city side. And then the area of greatest concern for me is that you are proposing that we do that in an ad hoc committee format. Ad hocs are great. I'm a huge proponent of them to get things moving along. But if you're going to be debating whether we cut money from the Auburn Food Bank or cut money from AYR or cut money from the Little Old Ladies Fund that buys new hot water heaters and furnaces on ladies with fixed income, and you want to do that in a back room in an ad hoc committee. Now, those are things that need to be out in the public eye and be debated in a forum such as this, where you put your opinions out there. Now, that I may agree with you on cutting some programs, that's yet to be determined, but at least I want to be on the record that I agree with you or don't agree with you. I don't want to do this in a private backroom meeting. This deserves to be out in front so that the people that administer programs like the Food Bank and AYR can hear us talking about cutting their programs so that we can patch potholes and rebuild roads.
Board Member Wales. Your microphone, please.
Thank you. Some clarification. I think $800,000 that we would generate from the license tab might be a little on the high side, and it seems based on discussion today that $800,000 is supposed to be used to patch potholes and to also be used to do matching money so that we can get other state and federal grants. I think that it's recently we had an issue with the airport, and Shelley, working with Shelley, the master of our different funds, was able to come up with some solutions.
Board Member Wales, remember this is the TBD board, this is not the city council.
Thank you very much. So I think that there is some merit to having an ad hoc committee, asking the city council to have an ad hoc committee to work with Shelley and see what is available. I also have a problem with you, Councilmember Holman.
Board Member Holman.
Board Member Holman, thank you. Implying that our ad hoc committees are surreptitiously whatever off and that then they come back with a ruling. Every time we've had a ad hoc committee, and you've probably exemplified it more than anyone in your thorough presentation as it relates to focus groups, our ad hocs have provided an opportunity to kind of gather and present all of the data and recommendations. They just don't come back and say, oh, we're going to cut AYR, which now has a new name, Nexus? Yeah. Yeah.
It'll take me weeks to get
Me
that.
too. It's taking me a while to figure out if I'm on the city council or on the transportation board, so I'm still working on it. But what I think there was some merit in what Pelosi suggested, that we ask the council, maybe let's table this and have some people meet with Shelley and just look at what some of the options. There may be no options. I don't know how timely this matter is. Thank you.
Board Member Pelosi.
I'm going to go back to Councilmember Holman's.
Board Member. I know it's difficult, but please
Just
try
call me
and
John.
please try and remember that even though we are the same makeup, this is the Transportation Benefit
It
District
might
Board.
help if our name tags were changed.
I have some comments regarding Board Member Holman's comments. First of all, I don't see that the suggested council ad hoc committees for public works or for human services for the city side of roughly 500,000 is going to strip mall all the money. The ad hoc committees make recommendations to the full council, and the full council can yay or nay the whole process. The other thing is, you know, I go around the city streets of Auburn, and yeah, there are some potholes, but I also travel Rainier Avenue in Seattle and in that area, along with their garbage that's all over the place. There are a heck of a lot more potholes there than in our fine city. I think our road crews and people calling in the potholes here, they take care of them pretty well. I think you're overstating the potholes within our city. Thank you.
Board Member DeCoursey.
Thank you, Chair. I think what we're seeing is through the media presentations recently and pretty much featuring a lot of local jurisdictions, including Auburn, related to what Board Member Wales was talking about in relation to the school bond passing and the recent ST3, which I must tell you quite honestly, when ST3 passed and we made our decision after ST3 passed on the $20 car tabs, I guess I didn't realize the impact of the cost of the ST3 issue. I thought it was going to be less significant in cost than that. And I heard on the news the other night one gentleman who's saying that his car tabs, with all the things he's got to pay, is now $1,500 a year.
He drives a Tesla.
Yeah, it's not something that we would normally drive, for most of us. But again, it's all a matter of scale in that. When we look at decisions that we made as a transportation benefit board, then on to the city council for adoption and approval, a lot of those decisions can, in many cases, should be reconsidered. And I think that's what this is bringing us today, is just a reconsideration. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's anybody here saying that we shouldn't have some form of revenue, albeit a vehicle license fee tab, tax, or we've talked about potentially in the future, perhaps a sales tax or other methods of raising revenue. I think it's prudent at this point in time to look at asking the city council to form an ad hoc committee to do the things the council is charged to do, policy and budget. And part of the budget process is for us to have an opportunity, like we should have, to revisit our budget and to make recommendations as to where those budget dollars can or should go in relation to budget amendments. And I think, again, in light of what's happening currently in the current climate related to concern of residents and the issues we're seeing, I think at this point in time we should table this and give us a little bit more time to think it through and give us an opportunity to revisit it and give us an opportunity to come back as a transportation benefit board, as well as the members of the city council, as a time in the near future to visit this once again.
Board Member DeCoursey, just a clarification. You just mentioned tabling the resolution. Is that what you are wanting to do?
We have an amended resolution before us, which I would be willing to make a motion on as we get to that point. But I guess my question would be, is if we're looking at the original motion, if we table that, does that provide an opportunity to bring an amended motion forward?
There could be a motion to table, and there could be a motion to table to a date specific. There could also be an amendment. All would be appropriate. It's as if you are now looking at the original draft version of resolution number 2016-01, and you can amend that, you can table it, you can rescind it, whatever you want to do. So if you wanted to bring a motion to amend it per the draft that was worked out with Board Member Wagner's language, that could be done at this time.
Board Member Wales.
I think that I hear in this group that we want to look at it some more, and listening very carefully to what you had to say, Board Member DeCoursey, we are responsible for policy and budget. I'd like to see us set this aside or table it and recommend to the council, the city council, that they do an ad hoc to look at specifically how much we anticipate needing for matching funds and how much we need for patching holes, and what some other sources of revenue might be, and not be so specific as to predetermine what those might be. I think that gives us, we all know we need to do roads, and we all want, the strength of Auburn has always been our ability to match funds, leverage funds, and we know that the major funds are at the federal and state level as it relates, so we don't want to jeopardize that. And we do highly respect our citizens, but more importantly, what we've done today, and we've done this in other situations, as a council, this is as a transportation board, we are willing to relook at what we're doing, and I think that's a good thing.
Board Member Holman.
Point of clarification. The motion maker, the original motion maker, Board Member Pelosa, was the one that identified prioritizing projects and using human services programs as a funding source. So don't be giving me the eye about me picking out human services. I did not. Your board member Pelosa did, and that's what I was speaking to. The second point, probably more germane to this conversation, is I would then move to table this for further consideration.
Are you making that motion?
I just made that motion.
All right. And Dan, remind me, once it is tabled, it does not need a second. Is that correct? Or
A motion to table would require a second.
Okay.
A motion to table without specificity as to date would be non-debatable. So it's an up or down vote at this point.
Then I'll be more specific. I move to table to until the next board meeting.
so
Would that be? I don't know when the next
so
board meeting.
typically,
Regularly scheduled.
Thank you. Typically, the Transportation Benefit District, the requirement is that the board meet once per year. Typically, that has been in February. So do we need to call a special meeting, or do we wait until February, Dan? Next February?
You could do it a variety of different ways. If and I'm not trying to put words in anybody's mouth. If the words were just to table it till next February, that's pretty defined. If the words were to table it until a meeting can be scheduled, that could be scheduled as a special meeting sooner than that. So it doesn't mean you have to wait till February.
So does that still, I mean, you were talking about a date specific.
If you don't have a specific date tied to it, it's to table it, and that's non-debatable, and that's up or down.
All right. And we need
But it would need a second, too.
It would need a second. Board Member DeCoursey,
I'll second the motion, but I would also like to amend the motion.
can you do that?
Why don't you do?
Why don't you let me
tell
second
what
it?
you need,
Okay.
and then I'll just
And I'll-
amend it.
It's not debatable.
Oh,
The motion
okay.
is not debatable.
Okay. Thank you.
Then, if I may modify, I'd like to move that we table this for 120 days and then have a special board meeting at that time.
Thank you. Board Member DeCoursey?
I second that motion.
All right, thank you. So we have a motion on the floor to table resolution number 2016-01 for 120 days, and there has been a second. Since it is a table motion, there is no discussion, correct?
No, because it is not a table without a date specific. It does have a date. It
now-
can be debated.
We can debate
All
it
right.
now.
All right. Are there any? Board Member Pelosa?
How do I, this is for you, Dan. How how can we, okay, it'd be 120 days, right? 3 months?
4 months.
4 months.
Or 4 months, excuse me. So that would be enough time for an ad hoc committee to,
Yeah.
so can I make a motion to,
No,
or,
there's a motion on the floor right now.
well, I'm trying to figure out how do we organize an ad hoc committee?
That has to be done by
today?
the city council. That cannot be done by the Transportation Benefit District
okay.
Board.
So we can't do anything like that today then?
This board can only request of the council. You're really two
Okay,
different
I'm gonna-
entities.
Okay, I'm gonna request that the Auburn City Council,
It would be an out of order request at this point. You've got a motion on the table.
so when,
We vote
oh,
on this
okay,
and then-
okay, I'll bring it up after.
That's not me.
Okay.
Right. Board Member DeCoursey.
So I want to just do a little clarification in this. And looking at the time frame, as we mentioned, 120 days, my purpose of looking at that is naturally giving the time necessary to ask the city council to form an ad hoc committee, to do some due diligence and get some things in order before we meet again. And it doesn't put it off in perpetuity. I mean, we come back and revisit this because there is a sense of urgency in this consideration, but it's not such a sense of urgency that we need to do it tomorrow. So I wanted to make sure we had enough time in there to review it. And if we employ the services of the ad hoc committee and they finish their work sooner, we could perhaps revisit it sooner.
Thank you. Just a question for Shelley or Kevin or Ingrid. What type of activity has been done by city staff related to this resolution that was passed by the Transportation Benefit District Board in December, and then a partner resolution to accept the agreement was made by the City Council earlier this year, correct? So has there been activity done by the city staff that needs to be undone at a council level?
I will have to check with the Department of Licensing. They're waiting on the board to approve the interlocal agreement to collect the tab. And I don't know if there is a time window or horizon on that. They have received the resolution 2016-1, and they were waiting on the interlocal agreement approval to be submitted along with the budget.
All right, thank you.
That's from finance, so then I'll turn it over to Kevin.
Kevin?
Thank you, Board Chair and board members. Another point of consideration is that the budget this evening, sorry, I'm already going to Planning Commission time. The budget this afternoon did identify a source of anticipated funding for 2017. Another action before you was a resolution to approve the projects, capital projects, or use of funds for street preservation. There is an identified project in that was put forward by our city engineer. The funding for that would be impacted. This is shown in the attached resolution, which will be resolution, if this board was to go further down the agenda, it was the resolution 2017-02. It is likely that that project funding would be impacted. We had built a budget assumption around that funding being in place to support that through action of the TBD.
Thank you. And Kevin, that plan or that project is for B Street Northwest, correct?
It'd be the section from 49th Street to 277th that would, we had anticipated utilizing the, since we're only doing potentially half-year funding, if it had gone forward today, we'd anticipate approximately $400,000 coming in for revenue and utilization of a substantial portion of that to address that area between 49th Street and 277th.
Great, thank you. Board Member Wales.
So out of that
Your microphone, please.
Oh, thank you. So what you're saying is if we got the 800,000, $350,000 of it was going to be spent on this 49th through 270 or 200 and whatever 77th. So that would have left us with 450,000 and 400. No.
So to clarify, board
Yeah.
member, as you may remember from previous conversations, when the car tab fee is passed, there is per statute an automatic 6-month period of time in which the funds cannot be collected.
Okay.
So we anticipated those funds would not be collected until summer of 2017, meaning that the full anticipated amount, the approximate $800,000 you've referenced, would not be collected in full in 2017. We anticipated approximately half of that would be collected in 2017, which is why the budget for 2017, that is also Ordinance 2017-01 on the agenda, assumed approximately $400,000 in revenue for 2017. We did because we don't have a full year of collection.
So if I may follow up.
Please.
So 400,000 and 350,000 of it would have been used for 37th through 277th, leaving $50,000 for matching funds for other grants and for road patching.
In your packet, under the attachment for the Auburn Transportation District budget, it shows that there would be approximately $12,500 in what would be defined as overhead fees, which would be audit, insurance, and miscellaneous of the $400,000. And the balance would roll into ending fund balance to be used and deployed in the next year capital program.
Board Member Wales.
So we're even having less for matching funds for other projects and for fixing potholes?
This is just 6 months worth of collection.
Yeah.
And we anticipate 800,000. So the 37,500 would be ending fund balance or cash flow, which would roll forward into 2018 and be combined with those tabs fees collected the full 12 months of
Yes.
2018.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of tabling resolution number 2016-01 for 120 days, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Passes. So, Dan, I am going to assume that at this point, the other items on the agenda are moot.
Well, there may be some of them that might survive, but most of them would be something that would also have to come back depending upon future action down the road.
All right. Would you like to give us a list of those items that should be under consideration today and which ones should come back at the next
I'm going to defer to Kevin. I think he's a little more familiar with all of the issues.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board Chair. So staff would request that the TBD Board consider what is item 4D on your agenda. This is an action. We are statutorily required to adopt an annual report of activity by the Transportation Benefit District. The board has done this in the past, and in order to meet statutory obligation, we would request that the board take action on item 4D. The other item, which is a voluntary item, it was directed by the board previously to bring forward a following conversation at the last meeting on December 13th, 2016, where the board identified an interest in an 18-month public education effort to engage the Auburn community in a conversation about the potential of application of a 0.2% sales and use tax. You did direct that a memorandum of understanding between the Transportation Benefit District and the City of Auburn for engaging in partnership efforts on that public education campaign be brought forward. So that item could be potentially enacted upon if you felt that that was still warranted.
Thank you. All right. So at this point, we will remove ordinance number 2017-01, resolution 2017-01, resolution 2017-02, resolution 2017-03. And we will move to resolution number 2017-04. Dan.
This is a resolution of of the Auburn Transportation Benefit District adopting a 2016 annual report.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Board Member Wales.
I move for the approval.
Your microphone, please.
I move for the approval of Resolution 2017-04.
Thank you. Is there a second? Board Member Baggett.
I will second that, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Board Member Wales and then Board Member Pelosa.
I think this helps us to be in compliance with state requirements. It'll record actions that we've done to date and report them, and clear the way for us to meet again in 120 days and do our next task.
Thank you. Board Member Pelosa.
Looking at page 36 of 46, the third paragraph. The third line says revenue collection from this fee will occur in mid to late 2017. I'm just pointing that out.
Right. This was the 2016 annual report.
Yeah.
So as of the end of 2016, this is the information that would have been of record. And so the 2017 annual report will reflect the actions of today's meeting. Okay. All right. Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of resolution number 2017-04, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
Next matter is
Passes.
resolution number 2017-05, a resolution of the Auburn Transportation Benefit District approving a memorandum of understanding with the City of Auburn regarding a 0.2% sales and use tax.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Board Member DeCoursey.
I move for the adoption of resolution number 2017-05.
Thank you. Is there a second? Board Member Trout Manuel.
I second that, Chair.
Thank you. Board Member DeCoursey, did you want to say anything else about that?
I think it's been sufficiently stated.
All right. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of resolution number 2017-05, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Passes. All right, we are at the end of the agenda for today, so we are adjourned.